Hello, this is Steve Ellison, and I'm going to present on Pakistan's minorities and how they're being used as scapegoats. And more specifically, I'll be talking about the religious minorities in Pakistan. So the first thing that I'm going to need to address is who exactly are the different religious groups in Pakistan. And we can see from the CIA World Factbook that the huge majority of the people there are Muslim, right? With around 85% or so being the Shia Muslim, around 11% being Sunni Muslim, and with all of the other religions fitting within 4% of the population. Kind of surprisingly, there's actually a very rich diversity amongst the religious minority. With smaller Islamic sects such as the Ahmadis, the Sufis, and the Ismailis, and they seem to be taking the brunt of the religious discrimination. But there's also Hindus, Buddhists, Baha'is, Sikhs, Zoroastrians, and there's also a surprising amount of Christians there, with even around 2,000 Latter-day Saints. So I guess one of the questions that seems kind of obvious is, how is it that the government or even the people there, how can they get away with persecuting these religious minorities? And it seems like it boils down to the fact that the laws there are kind of contradictory, and they don't offer a lot of protection. Because on one end, the Constitution clearly states that, and I quote, "Every citizen shall have the right to profess, practice, and propagate his religion, and every religious denomination and every sect thereof shall have the right to establish, maintain, and manage its religious institutions." And yet, there's many anti-blasphemy laws that stop people from practicing their faith, because their faiths in and of itself usually contradict Islam. And unfortunately, there's lots of things being done to these minorities. One huge example is the Ahmadi Muslims, who, according to the state, they don't even count as being Muslims, which means they can't preach from the Quran, they can't call their place of worship a mosque, they can't even call themselves Muslim or preach their faith to others, which in a lot of ways would be similar to the U.S. government being like, yeah, you can be Mormons, but you can't use the Bible, you can't call yourself a church, and you can't mention Jesus Christ or any of that, which I'm assuming for all of us would be ridiculous, and there wouldn't really be very much left of our faith, and I'm assuming it's very similar for them. But even all the other minorities, they have problems with their places of worship being bombed. A lot of them have forced conversions, and a lot of times they're beaten or even lynched. So, I guess the next logical thing to ask would be like why is this happening to them? Like, what do they ever do, right? So that's really where scapegoating comes in. And like a good definition of scapegoating would be a person or group made to bear the blame for others or to suffer in their place. And this is something that we've seen time and time again in history, from the Holocaust to the Rwandan genocide, the Armenian genocide, the Bosnian genocide. And unfortunately, it looks like the trends to scapegoating usually just leads to more violence. Even in our own country, we have problems with extremist groups like the Ku Klux Klan and the New Black Panther Party, usually blaming minorities or different groups for different problems that they have, when usually they don't have much, if anything, to do with them. So why does Pakistan scapegoat? Well, it's usually a really easy way for leaders to blame others, and that usually gives different either political leaders or terrorists, it usually gives them excuses to have more political gain or to carry out terrorist attacks and stuff like that. And unfortunately, like I mentioned before, there's a huge opening in Pakistan's government because of the contradictory laws, and the government doesn't really want to support these minorities that they very deep down don't agree with. So hopefully, it's hopefully the situation in Pakistan will improve over time before it gets out of hand. And that is my presentation based off of the minorities in Pakistan. Thank you very much for listening.